And we're going to do the first fold. Wow, it feels really solid.
Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to Financial Fitness. If you're new to the channel and want to hear more worth the money videos and about personal finance, please subscribe. In this video of Worth the Money, I'm going to be talking about whether the Z Fold 3 is worth it or not. Let's get started.
So this is what I pre-ordered after the Galaxy Unpacked event on August 11th. I ordered a Galaxy Z Fold 3 in Phantom Black, and we're going to do the unboxing right now. You can see how thin the box is, which indicates that there is no charger in the box. Open it up. This should be a really simple unboxing because I know there's not a lot in this box. So right on top, you can see the Z Fold 3. I've been waiting for this since last year when I saw the Z Fold 2 come out. Wow, this is really thin. So in the box, obviously the Z Fold 3 itself, a pin ejector tool, and I believe a USB-C cable. Yep, a USB-C cable in the box right here. And we're gonna do the initial unwrapping of the fold. So how do you get started? Wow. Okay, we're gonna start right here. Oh man. Wow. And we're gonna do the first fold. Wow, it feels really solid.
So I ended up pre-ordering the Z Fold 3 after the Galaxy Unpacked event, along with ordering the Galaxy Buds 2. This review is in the perspective of what it's like to switch from a slab or candy bar phone and going to the Z Fold 3. I'll speak to some of the important features throughout this video that pertain to switching from a slab or candy bar form factor to a folding form factor. I'm sure some of you may actually want some guidance from that perspective instead of just talking about all the great new features the Z Fold 3 brings to the table. With that being said, before I switched to the Z Fold 3, my previous everyday phones were the Galaxy Note 8 and the Galaxy S10 Plus as far as being daily drivers. For those of you who are curious, all my videos are recorded using the Galaxy S10 Plus with no other equipment other than a tripod. I switched from the S10 Plus to the Z Fold 3 as my everyday phone, which came with a small learning curve trying to figure out how to take advantage of an even bigger screen by going to a folding phone and tablet. I'd also like to point out that Samsung seems to be getting close to eliminating the Galaxy Note series with the launching of the Z Fold 3 and the ability to use the S Pen stylus with it. It won't be a full replacement for the Note series phone until the crease is entirely eliminated from the inner screen of the Z Fold so that you can smoothly write anywhere on the screen. Some people want the stylus to live inside the Z Fold, but that takes up space for a bigger battery among other components. And honestly, a large percentage of Note users don't even use the stylus and they get the Note for the best specs and large screen like I did with the Note 8. So it makes sense that Samsung separated it from the device unless you intentionally purchase it, in my opinion. Anyway, let's start with the cameras because they are a big part of any smartphone purchase. Here are some photos I took with the Z Fold 3. If you watch enough tech reviews on the Z Fold 3, they will all say roughly the same thing on the cameras in that they are not flagship cameras. So why did Samsung use cameras out of the Galaxy S20 and Galaxy S10 on an $1,800 or $1,900 smartphone? They wanted to bring down the price to start bringing foldables into the mainstream phone market for the average smartphone user. So bottom line, on cameras, they are more than adequate, but you'll need to accept that the cameras on the Z Fold 3 will not be the latest and greatest. but pretty much all other major features will be flagship level. Another point to make on the cameras, Samsung was a bit ambitious on the camera for the inner display, which is now under the display without a punch out. Of course, this gives the camera potato level quality for anything beyond a Zoom call or a video call. It's innovative for sure, but don't expect to be taking selfies for Instagram using that camera. I think Samsung's reasoning behind the under-display camera, even though it wasn't quite ready for prime time yet, was that it was the least used camera on the Z Fold 2 and that there are 4 other cameras to choose from when taking a photo. The under-display camera essentially has to take a picture through the pixels on the display when they are off and the inner folding screen, so it's going through 2 layers before taking a photo or video, which is what makes it not clear. Personally, I'd rather have a real hole punch camera to give comparable quality to the other cameras if the technology is not ready for prime time yet on such an expensive flagship level device. The 3 cameras on the back are all 12 megapixels, the hole punch camera on the front is 10 megapixels, and the under display camera on the inner screen is 4 megapixels. They're more than adequate to take any day-to-day photos, but the latest flagship phones will have slightly better cameras than the Z Fold 3. In terms of pricing, it's getting lower, which was partially due to using an outdated camera system to bring the starting price down by $200 to make the retail price $1,800. It's still about $600 from being in the average flagship smartphone price territory. However, with Samsung offering trade-in deals for up to 4 devices, which can range from smart watches, tablets, and smartphones, in addition to their pre-order promotions, you can almost bring the price down to about $1,000 or $1,300 before taxes, depending on what devices you trade in. My experience so far, I was super excited to unbox the Z Fold 3 and switch to it for the phone I use every day, or daily driver as they call it in the tech world. I had 3 minor concerns even before I bought the phone. Those 3 were the narrow width of the cover display, which could make it harder to type on and less usable overall without opening the phone, the crease on the inner display and whether that would be an issue for me personally, the weight and bulk of the phone compared to my S10 Plus, or really any average slab phone. Typing on the cover display is still difficult a couple months later, but I've gotten used to it a bit and make less typos than before. I was not concerned about the durability because Samsung supposedly increased the durability on the phone and the inner screen by a considerable amount, 10% better on the phone frame because of upgraded aluminum, armor aluminum.
The build quality feels really premium. So once you touch it, you can feel the aluminum, or the armor aluminum as they call it, just all around the frame. Wow.
The hinge can withstand 200,000 folds without damage, which translates to about 100 folds per day for 5 years. Both the front and the back of the Z Fold 3 use Gorilla Glass Victus, which is Corning's latest and supposedly strongest version of glass to date as of 2021. This also makes the phone sleek but a bit slippery to hold firmly if it wasn't more narrow than the average smartphone. The plastic layer on top of the ultra-thin glass is now made of PET plastic to give it a more smooth glass-like feel instead of the TPU plastic on the Z Fold 2, which made it feel only like plastic previously, as I've read. The PET layer is supposed to be 80% more durable than the previous Z Fold phones, which means fewer scratches and nail marks. Keep in mind that just because the material changed, the top layer is still plastic and pliable since it has to fold, so pressing too hard or accidentally tapping the screen with your nails could leave a mark on the screen. You will also likely want to stay away from anywhere like a beach or places with a lot of dust or dirt particles, since those can get in the hinge and turn the Z Fold 3 into an expensive paperweight. But the Z Fold 3 is finally water resistant, which is an unexpected change for something that folds. It is IPX8. The X means it was not tested for dust resistance, and the 8 means it can be submerged for up to 30 minutes in 1 to 1.5 meters of water. The cost to repair either of the Z Fold 3 screens is $149 for the external screen and $479 for the internal screen if the phone is out of warranty or without Samsung Care Plus. It's probably a good idea to have Samsung Care Plus if you happen to break the screen accidentally, since it's so expensive. The cost for Samsung Care Plus is $12.99 per month and comes with a $249 deductible. The deductible covers up to 3 screen repairs per year. Just for awareness, depending on what smartphone you're switching from to the Z Fold 3, you're also giving up 2 or 3 additional things beyond the 3 things that I was originally concerned about. The SD card slot and the headphone jack are the primary ones, and in some cases, maybe a bigger battery since the Z Fold 3 doesn't have the biggest battery given all the components inside it, along with having a hinge in the middle of the entire device. Battery life is adequate but could be better, but relatively speaking, it's a similar size battery to an S21 Plus, but it's also powering a 7.6-inch screen that is much bigger than an average sized phone. Logically speaking, it will be worse in terms of battery life the more that the main inner screen is used. The Galaxy S21 Ultra has a 5000 mAh battery, and the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra has a 4500 mAh battery, both of which are bigger than the Z Fold 3 at 4400 mAh. If you're switching from a Samsung phone series before the Galaxy S20, the Z Fold 3 should have a bigger battery in comparison. Switching from a Galaxy S20 or S21, the battery is roughly the same size. I guess a fourth one, if this matters to you, is thinking about where you would take the phone and feeling like you might not be able to go to certain places you're used to going, like the beach, and where you feel like it could get damaged from something potentially getting inside the hinge, like a construction site. Beyond all these details that I've talked about so far, I think a great way to help you figure out how much you would benefit from the Z Fold 3 folding form factor would be how often you turn your slab phone horizontally to either play games, watch YouTube, Netflix, or any other video content. Essentially, the amount of content you consume is an enormous factor on whether the size of the 7.6-inch inner folding screen would benefit you or even change the way you use a phone going forward. If you're using it for work or productivity, you can potentially have multiple documents, tabs, or apps open at the same time with enough space to effectively get stuff done. On a normal phone, most people don't tend to open multiple windows at once because there just isn't enough space for it. You end up switching between apps instead of actually having them both open at the same time. So I can demo here that with YouTube open, you can actually have a game or another app open and actually do both at the same time. If you happen to be at a restaurant and want to view both the menu and Yelp photos of the food you might order at the same time, this is a great way to utilize the unfolded 7.6-inch screen of the Z Fold 3. If you don't consume enough content on your phone currently and end up switching to a computer or TV, then maybe the Z Fold 3 won't work for you. But if you turn your phone horizontally quite a bit and also grab your tablet or laptop sometimes for typing or watching content, then the Fold 3 could be exactly what you needed, if it's in your budget, of course. If you think about the pricing structure of the Z Fold 3 at $1,800 and compare it to phones and tablets, based on full retail pricing before any discounts or bundles, a flagship smartphone is about $1,000 to $1,200. A flagship tablet is in the $500 to $800 range, or even around $1,000 on the super high end if you include the iPad Pro. That puts the cost of both devices exactly in line with the Z Fold 3, give or take $100 or so, based on the combination of smartphone and tablet you choose. From the perspective of price and how you might use the Fold 3, it could make sense if you normally use your tablet as more of a bigger phone to switch to something like the Z Fold 3 so that you don't have to charge and carry two different devices. Here's how my three main concerns played out once I used the phone for a couple months. First is the narrow width of the front screen, which was as expected and a bit small, but I got used to it eventually. I happen to have smaller hands anyway, so it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been, and likely could be for most people with average sized hands or bigger hands. Adjusting the keyboard size vertically was also helpful, but I still felt like I was missing the normal width of the keys from a normal smartphone. I found myself using the front screen a bit more than I thought I might, which helped save on battery life quite a bit. For those wondering, I have a Whitestone dome screen protector on the outer screen to protect against any scratches from daily use, and it has held up amazingly well and feels just like the screen without the tempered glass protector on it. The second is the crease in the middle, which is a non-issue once you start consuming any content, so thankfully that played out how I thought it would. It nearly becomes invisible and you essentially forget about it unless you happen to be scrolling over it while using it or pausing a YouTube video or movie, since the pause button will always be in the middle of the screen. The third is the weight and bulk of the phone, which is definitely not pocket friendly, but acceptable overall. I'll point out that it's a weird shape because it's taller than most smartphones and obviously is thicker because it's essentially two phones stacked on top of each other. Arguably, the Z Fold 3 could be about as thick as a normal phone with a bulky case on it. Basically, there are minor compromises, but it just changes the way you would use a phone, especially with the option to use multi-window apps and be able to actually use 2 or 3 apps on the 7.6-inch main display at the same time. Samsung even has a labs feature that can force apps into multi-window even if they normally can't work in a separate window, so that they can be used alongside other apps and rearranged in different sizes based on which combination of apps you're using and where on the screen you want them to be. It also helps with resizing certain apps to fit within the screen properly, which will force you to choose between filling the screen and cutting off part of the app or content, or having proper sizing and not utilizing all of the inner display. If you're always going for the biggest phone, you have the budget, and you don't intend to use a stylus much or at all, the Z Fold 3 is the way to go. It's going to allow you to do much more than you think on it, and you'll end up using your tablet way less, or even potentially trading it in to get the Z Fold 3, and you'll likely even use your laptop a bit less depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I think for a device like this that enables multitasking and multimedia, it'll change your routine a bit, and that's probably a good thing, as you may get more done with fewer devices and not needing to switch between them. If you think about your electronic spectrum, a laptop or desktop is where you are most productive and doing the most typing. A phone is with you pretty much every minute of the day and in your pocket. A tablet is in this gray area where it tries to be both a phone and a computer, but it doesn't really succeed in either case. Tablets typically aren't that useful outside of businesses without keyboard and mouse attachments or a stylus. If you're going to use it as a big phone, it's still another device to carry around, even if you only plan to use it for media consumption, which again makes little sense along with the fact that tablets don't have data usually. That's something extra that you'd have to pay for unless you have Wi-Fi all the time. Media or gaming that take up the full size of the inner screen are extremely immersive. In my opinion, I think the Z Fold 3 is worth the money, but it depends on how you plan to use the Z Fold 3. If you don't intend to use it for content consumption, multimedia, and gaming or productivity, then you can probably save yourself money and go for another slab phone like the Galaxy S21 Ultra. If you're just fold curious and you don't use your tablet that much currently, or use it mostly as a big phone, the Z Fold 3 could easily change that and be the device that changes the way you use your phone, because it unfolds the options of a tablet. It's also a bit of a head turner, so when you take it anywhere in public and people see you open it up, you'll likely draw some attention. People will probably ask you questions, and that wow factor from people not knowing that foldable phones exist yet. If that's a factor that interests you, this does happen quite a bit. Overall, if you're on Android and you're curious about folding phones, the Z Fold 3 is the one to consider. It's a two-in-one device that allows you to leave your tablet at home or even trade it in towards getting a Z Fold 3, not charge a second device, and not have to pay for a separate data line just for your tablet depending on how you use it. There is also Samsung DeX, which I'm not going into detail on, but it basically turns your phone into a computer when placed into the Samsung DeX dock, which starts to blend into both a tablet and laptop. If you're on iPhone, you should realize that you've realistically been sold the same phone since iPhone 6 or 7 more or less. The only things that really changed between iPhone 6 and 13 was they added a Pro version with more cameras. They also made the exact same phone, except even smaller, called the iPhone Mini. Everyone has also been taking away the headphone jack, but that happened too. Every other upgrade between version 6 to 13 was incremental from the processor, battery, build materials like stainless steel, and software updates. Essentially, aside from finding new ways to sell you the same phones, Apple has had no real innovation within the smartphone space in a long time. and they also don't plan to launch a folding phone until 2023. Samsung will basically control the entire folding phone market by 2023, at least in North America, and once Apple gets into the folding game, Samsung will likely be selling their folding displays to Apple anyway, so that Apple can sell their folding phones. I likely will not go back to a normal slab phone, but at the same time, I'd like for the cover screen and inner screen to be just a little wider so the cover screen can be more useful. I'd say right now I still use the cover screen a little less than I'd prefer to now that I've gotten used to having two screens. Right now, I'm probably using the cover screen about 40% of the time and the inner display about 60% of the time. When Samsung fixes the aspect ratio of the Z Fold, I'd hope to use the cover screen a little over 50% of the time for the ease of just searching for something quickly or replying to a text or email instead of occasionally just unfolding it for some of the more simple tasks that I might do on a daily basis. Those are my thoughts and experiences on the Z Fold 3. Hope this helps you if you've been thinking about switching to a Z Fold device, or maybe this introduces you to the recent development of foldables in general. Check out my Galaxy Buds 2 review and unboxing also if you haven't done so already. I'll link that video as a pinned comment and at the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and found it insightful. Click the like button if you did, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the notification bell so you can see when I post videos next. Feel free to leave comments, questions, and any topics you might want to hear about in future videos to get on track to being financially fit. See you in the next video.